little bit greater.
Okay.
We started a very, very big protest.
Okay.
We lost 8 people.
Thank you, everyone,
All of them joined and they said quit India. Quit
for
India.
coming. And we don't have much time, so I'd like to get started ASAP. Okay, thank you. This presentation will be recorded for quality control purposes. And, oh, here we go. Okay, play, right? Present. Fantastic. Okay, so this is a presentation that Felicia Olmsted, Hannah Lenz, me, and Shanda, and Shanda did at TESOL, Saskatchewan. All of us are graduates from Briarcrest College and Seminary, and this presentation came about because while living in Caronport, all 4 of us at some point in time, especially when I was teaching evening stage 2. Pardon me? What is it? A clicker? And it controls that? Thank you. That'd be great. And so we had the opportunity, we would commute with each other for at least 4 months last year. And Felicia and Shanda work at University of Regina. I work at Regina Open Door, obviously. Thank you so much. Wow. And Hannah works at Sask Polytech. So we have a very unique opportunity to be all like-minded people, all teachers working different levels, all in Link, but 3 different organizations. And so we found that in our commuting, in our conversations, a lot of things would kind of come about, where we would talk about how our class was going and what we planned for this class, and kind of the advice that we received from each other and the things that we shared were really unique and really helpful. So it was actually Hannah's idea to submit a proposal to TESOL SAS, and then we did that presentation there, and people really responded well and thought it might be helpful, so then we thought maybe we could share it here. There we go. Vulnerability. So thankfully, earlier today, Mr. Tutusis was talking a lot about this, and I thought I was really grateful for that because it connects very well with the beginning of my presentation. Which, by the way, you're wondering, what is it? Okay, in 2 parts. 1, the presentation about vulnerability, collaboration with each other, how do we do that, what are some examples? And part 2 is kind of color-coded grammar, a method that I've started developing and would like to share with you and receive any feedback or further development on that thing. So Mr. Tutusis talked today about akameimo, which means to try again. He talked about interconnectedness. Let us be open and vulnerable and receptive with each other. He talked about thinking spherical, not just in a line, not thinking we have limits, but actually we can continue to grow. So that's kind of where I'd like to go with this. In my presentation, I started reading this book, Mindset, by Carol Dweck in 2015. Have any of you heard of Carol Dweck or heard of the terms fixed mindset and growth mindset?
I've heard of the book, but I
Okay.
didn't read it.
Wonderful. Okay, so it's not that out there, which after I read it 3 years ago, my mind was just like, whoosh. I really needed this in my life. I really needed to learn how to practice this. And so I'd like to share at least the 1 graphic in the entire book that really boils it down. So in her research that was about 20, I almost said 20 decades. That'd be pretty cool. 2 decades of research. Wow. She kind of realized that every challenge we face in life and our approach to life boils down to 2 things. People either have a fixed mindset, where you believe that intelligence is static. You're athletic, you're creative, you're good at this, you're not good at that. And you're smart or you're only this smart. We really like IQs, you know? And then growth mindset, you don't actually believe that your knowledge is limited. You believe that intelligence can be developed. You can learn to be creative. You can learn to like sports. You can learn so many different things. So how does this translate into teaching? Well, for challenges, if you've got this fixed mindset, you avoid challenges. You don't like to do things that you're not familiar with. You know, for me, actually for all of us, when we were learning about PBLA, that's a challenge, and we're resistant to it because we're like, this is hard. But a growth mindset, we actually learn to embrace the challenge as an opportunity to grow and to develop as a person and professionally. Obstacles. We give up easily if we're a fixed mindset. We reach a challenge, oh, it wasn't meant to be, or I'm not good at that, so I'm just going to quit. Whereas with a growth mindset, we persist in the face of setbacks. We just, what's that word again? Akameo, try, and keep trying. Same with the effort. Do we see effort as fruitless, or like, if I need to try, I'm probably not meant to do it? Or do we see effort as inevitable and the path to becoming great? Criticism, okay? We don't receive a lot of criticism, I don't think, from each other, at least not in this environment. I feel like Regina Open Door has done really, really well with having collaboration and caring about each other, but when you do face criticism, even from a student saying, teacher, no good, how do you respond? Do you just ignore it? Do you say, you have no right to tell me how to teach? Do you become very defensive? Do you take it personally and just push yourself down? Or do you learn from it? Even if somebody criticizes you in a way that's not helpful, are you able to glean something from it? Are you able to take criticism and feedback and see it as a gift? As, okay, this is something I can actually improve as a person. And the success of others. With a fixed mindset, we feel threatened by the success of others. We tend to compare ourselves to each other. Okay, like, oh, I'll never be as good as Adeline, like, she's amazing. Or sometimes we compare each other and we're prideful. And we see ourselves as better than somebody else, and we take pride in that. Okay, or do we find lessons and inspiration from the success of others? Wow, I want to learn how to lesson plan like Adeline, like, can we actually see the good in others and be encouraged by that instead of threatened by that? So in a nutshell, if we are thinking this way, that success is limited and our intelligence limited, we're a certain way, it actually just leads to guilt and shame and pride and just beating down on ourselves and hiding in our own little teacher bubble. Like, I'm just going to teach in my class, I hope nobody ever has to observe me, ever. Or with a growth mindset, learning that we actually can learn and we can grow, and it's okay to have setbacks, it's okay to experience failures, and it's okay to have mistakes because we grow from it. And that leads to ever higher levels of achievement. So we become much better teachers, we become much better individuals, and our students benefit because they're getting an ever higher caliber of teaching, and our relationships improve and our workplace improves. So, prompt number 1 to discuss in your little groups, and I will give you 5 minutes. What is a challenge you have faced in your career or currently facing now? How do you see yourself overcoming it? Oh, I forgot my story. Oh, should I share it? The one where I really blew up at my students? Okay, in the spirit of vulnerability, before you go to this, to give you courage about sharing with each other, in 2015, shortly after I started reading this book, I was conducting a writing assessment with my pre-benchmark level 1 learners. I had already talked to them about cheating and why it's not okay to talk during tests. But this time I took extra measures and I set them up in the computer lab, like beside the computer lab. So when they're done, there's no temptation, they can just go into the computer lab, problem solved. Right? Anyway, one of my students, she was really, really struggling with what's your name and Regina, like really struggling on her test with writing this out. And a younger student from her culture, from her same country, saw that her elder was struggling, and after she handed in her test to me, she went over and she started pointing at the paper and talking to her. I was like, what are you doing? I was so frustrated because we had been through this. So I marched over to both of them and I just took their papers and I said, no, That is talking, that is cheating. You cannot help her in this test. No test. And I walked over and I threw it in the recycling bin. By recycling bin, I mean garbage can, which is even worse. I took their test and I put them in the garbage can, right in front of everyone else. And immediately, my fixed mindset was like, what did you just do? You responded to anger. Your students are never going to respect you again. What happens if management finds out? You could be fired. Oh man, talk about pressure. And so they went to the computer lab. I tried to regain composure and be like, oh, okay. And thankfully, by the time break rolled around, I was trying to take what I was learning from this book, because it takes time to develop this kind of thinking. And I started thinking, you made a mistake. That wasn't an appropriate way to respond, but you can learn from this. Your students will learn from this, okay? And you probably should get some help so that when you go in after break, you don't make things worse. So I summoned up my courage and I talked to Margaret. I went to her office, turned myself in, and I said, Margaret, this is what I did. I'm sorry. Because I didn't want it to come up